In many of my previous videos in this channel, I have been dealing with the influence of AI, artificial intelligence, on academia and on writing. This is indeed a subject that has been preoccupying me lately and changing significantly my habits. I used to write almost every day. Now I write much less. I try to think more and see what I can do as an academic given the technology that exists today and that will probably exist in a matter of months or years and will be much better than what we can imagine now. Today I want to speak about a particular aspect of artificial intelligence, artificial superintelligence, or ASI. Artificial superintelligence means a level of sophistication, of depth in cognitive activities that we as human beings cannot comprehend with our limited minds. Is it a real danger? Is it something that can occur in the future? Or, as I would try to claim, is it starting to occur in baby steps already now? And what should we do given this situation? My name is Shai Dotan. I'm Associate Professor of International and Public Law at the University of Copenhagen Faculty of Law, and the purpose of this series of lectures is to improve your English and your research skills. For several years, and increasingly since the ChatGPT moment about 2 years ago, many people have been concerned about the rise of AI. So now it's ranged from destruction of Earth, as we can see already in all the movies such as Terminator or Matrix, to a situation where most of the jobs will be lost because people cannot compete anymore with the quality of machines, and this would require a complete reshuffling of the way we run our industry. People may stop working. Instead, they may get some kind of a universal income for doing nothing, or we will organize some kind of a community job that is really not necessary. So the social implications can be dangerous. All kinds of things can be problematic. In order to reach a situation where an AI can replace human beings effectively, we need to reach a moment that has been going under the category of AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, which means that the artificial intelligence is able to succeed as well or better than human beings in a variety of different tasks. So they're not only able to solve mathematical problems, they're also able to code, they're also able to write a text. This can be writing an exposition on a certain subject, or writing a question, or writing an answer to a question. So they can interact in a variety of activities that were traditionally done only by human beings, because no animal is able to do any of these higher intellectual functions. And as we explore the development of AI over the last 2 years, we see that at first the tools were relatively basic, even though ChatGPT was a huge leap forward. I remember very well playing with it when it came out. It gave, to some questions, very intelligent answers. To some questions, you could see that the answers would have been intelligent had it not been for some kind of safety constraints that were imposed on a machine to make it look politically correct and not to offend anybody. But it was quite good. But what happens afterwards is the interesting part, because when ChatGPT started out, it was a nice toy for people to play with. And after about a year and a half, it became able to do a very large part of what people can do. And what I see now in the last 3 months is a huge acceleration in the pace of development. So we have the DeepSeek moment, where we have a competition from a Chinese company that leads all the American companies to basically avoid all the security constraints that were designed to slow down the process of development, and we just run forward, and we have Gemini becoming, in my opinion, significantly better over the last couple of months. I play with it a lot with my kids. ChatGPT becoming significantly better. We have also ChatGPT 4.5, which was released recently, Grok entering the scene, Grok 3, a new tool that can do incredible things in terms of writing short and well-founded research. And continuously we have other tools entering the market with specific abilities that are designed to help us as a product. So if we find that producing research using ChatGPT is not always perfect because it has some hallucinations, fewer, but still has, it's not very well referenced. So there's a tool called Storm that was launched recently in collaboration with Stanford University that is better on these accounts and can write something like a Wikipedia entry on any subject that you think that is very, very nice, and people are continuously trying to push the boundaries there. So to conclude all these developments, what we see is that the discussion of AGI, when or yes or no, is quite mute, because at least in the field that I know anything about, I don't know anything about computing, I don't know anything about coding, I don't know anything about mathematics. I do understand writing, and I understand thinking in a variety of soft tools applicable in the humanities and the social sciences and in law. And what I can see is that in these fields, the AI can compete with any human in terms of depth and sophistication. And of course, it works a million times faster. So in one of my videos in the channel, I showed how I can write a whole law paper, which would take an expert about a year to do, in a matter of about an hour and a half. I tried in an hour, but it took me a little bit closer to an hour and a half. Now there are people that are training the machine to prompt it repeatedly. So instead of taking 2 hours, it would take you 2 minutes or 2 seconds. So if you look at a company like Design RR, it is designed to use ChatGPT, continuously prompting it until it creates a book within a matter of minutes. So the conclusion that I have is that AGI is already there for every relevant aspect of qualitative analysis. It's not that the machine doesn't make mistakes. It still has hallucinations. There are fewer, but they still exist. They maybe are not as blatant as you see before, where it would give you a judgment that never existed, an article that just looks very nice, but just is a fake. It never existed. But there are still situations where I can think, okay, the machine is bluffing. It's trying to please me. It's not really giving me research that seeks the truth. But I think these things will be taken care of relatively early. And also they don't detract from the problem that the machine is intelligent enough. It may be lying to satisfy us, but it is definitely reaching all the cognitive abilities that we require from AGI. So AGI is already here. And now we can say, okay, so we have human beings that are writing papers or that are giving lectures. We have machines that are doing that. And the machines do it much faster, but the product is approximately the same. So why don't we think about our activities of writing, researching, thinking, questioning, talking, presenting, just like we do on any field of athletics? We still like to run, and we like to watch runners like Usain Bolt running, even though even Usain Bolt cannot run as fast as the slowest car. So we still enjoy the process of doing that, because the acting is the same. It's actually producing, walking in space on a faster pace. And then the question is, now when you're doing with things that are cognitive questions, it's not just about how fast you can produce a book. Of course, productivity is a very important metric. If I know that it takes me a year of very, very hard work to write a paper, or my LB students can write essentially the same paper in a minute, then I have to rethink what I'm doing as an academic, because there's no scarcity for this product. Anybody can produce it easily. But I can still see that people that are able to do that will find some pleasure in doing that. The question that starts to emerge is, what if machines know how to produce papers that are factually much, much better than ours, significantly better? So not only are they able to produce papers that are better than what the best scholars can produce, faster than what the best scholars can produce. So they write faster than Richard Posner. They write not 2 pages a day, 200 pages a day, but they also write papers that are better than Richard Posner, or even from much more meticulous and slow writers that write the best possible scholarship. What if they write articles that are even better than that? And better in a variety of aspects. So the language is better, the analysis is more thorough, the logic is better, it's based on more empirical research because they scan the internet and they find everything very well. Everything that they produce is just of better quality. What happens then? Are we even as human beings, as for example legal academics or academics in the social sciences and humanities, even able to join the discussion? Now, think of the question, what is a better novel from an artistic perspective? Da Vinci Code or Crime and Punishment? Now, many more people at least today have read Da Vinci Code than Crime and Punishment. Probably from those who have read both, there are some who enjoyed more Da Vinci Code. But if you ask any professor in the literature department, they would say Crime and Punishment is much better. And if you ask them to explain why, then they would find it difficult to explain it to a layperson, but they can try. So they can try to explain that Crime and Punishment deals with very, very deep emotions, human situations that reflect a philosophy that led to understanding of existentialism, that the way the novel is built, builds tension in a way that is more sophisticated and more profound, more memorable, and so on and so on. And a lot of people would maybe not understand all that, or not care to understand it, but they would take the word on it. So they would say, okay, fine, Crime and Punishment is a better novel, and that's what we kind of understand as our literary taste as a society. Now, what happens if ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or something like that can produce a paper just like my own, but instead of taking a year, they take a minute, and it's just much better in a way that is very, very difficult to explain. If I ask ChatGPT to explain about it, they would give me some kind of an explanation that I cannot fully comprehend, just like people cannot fully comprehend the discussion of literary professors, but I would have to take them on the word. Now, why do we believe these literary professors? It's not just because they are articulate when they say, oh, Crime versus Punishment is better. It's also because they as individuals can write much better than the layperson. And they teach students that can do the same. And they work in university that has produced great work of science and art and so on and so on and so on. So my projection is the first phase of an artificial superintelligence is not a situation where we would say, okay, this paper is brilliant in ways that we can just not comprehend. It will still be written in English, but at the first phase, we would just say, we have to surrender to the idea that the papers created by AI are just far superior to everything that a human being can do, because we can get a reasonable explanation from the AI about what it is, and we trust the AI because it's so much better able to produce practically anything than almost anybody, or maybe even anybody. We produce faster and better work. So that's the first step of artificial superintelligence, is a phase where basically we would say, we are not just slower than the machine, it is also better than us in ways that we cannot fully explain, but we just have to take for granted based on the quality of a machine's work generally. So if we recap the bad news, it is that AGI is already here, and most of what we are doing as human beings, at least intellectually, is replaceable by machines. That's the first bad news. The second bad news is that probably already today, in some respects, and if not today, then in a matter of a few years, we're going to have artificial superintelligence, which means that what we produce as human beings would not just be much harder to produce, and we do it much slower, it will not be of the same quality, and we just have to rely on the machines to say our work is significantly inferior, maybe even useless. But the bad news doesn't end here. When I speak about the book Crime and Punishment and the literature professor trying to explain to the layperson why Crime and Punishment is better, at least they can use the language and the some of the tools that I acquire as a professor to explain why Crime and Punishment is better. Maybe it will not be a full understanding, but maybe the person listening to them would be able to understand it. But what if the level of intelligence that the machines would reach is so high that there would be no bridge between their perception of what is better and our ability to understand it? Now, in the literature on artificial superintelligence, there's something called emergence. Emergence is a situation basically where you have a lot of different knowledge points that create some kind of an understanding or an intelligence that others cannot understand. So you cannot explain calculus to a monkey, even if they understand a little bit of basic arithmetics. They will never be able to understand calculus because you need a certain level of understanding or being comfortable with math to explain that. So this is a level of intelligence that is not just above human understanding, it's above the ability to explain to human beings. Now, how far are we from such a situation? This seems like something that maybe will never happen, and if it is going to happen, it's going to happen very, very far in the future. The very, very bad news that I have to share with you is that I think it is already happening now, and it's happening in a way that may be a bit different than most people understand. And that's a way of what I call the islands of artificial superintelligence. So what if the machines are slowly able to understand certain aspects of what we do in a way that is so much better they cannot even explain to us why. So a simple example that I think is easy to convey that before I go to the example that is close to my own research is in chess. So if today Magnus Carlsen cannot play with his phone, cannot play chess against his phone, so best chess player in the world is going to lose any time in any case, that's already something that we need to be worried about if you want to keep the edge as human beings. But if you would also say, I don't even know why this move is better, it doesn't seem to concur with all the literature of how to get an advantage in chess that was developed by tens of thousands of smart individuals over the years, or with any algorithm that a human being can design based on this literature, and yet it's going to win. Then what happens is there's a kind of an island. So there's a possibility for the machine to be superior in ways that we cannot comprehend, but is growing significantly over every day, basically, until we reach a point where we cannot really understand the way the machine plays anymore. So that's within a chess, it's a kind of a closed framework. What I want to do in the last minutes of this video is to show you how I think this happens regarding the use of language. Now, before I go to explaining what I think could happen in terms of artificial superintelligence in language, let's try to explain how I learned to write, for example. So I read a lot of books, I read style books, I tried all kinds of things. Eventually I found a mentor, Patrick Berry, that I worked with for many years. What we used to do is I used to write throughout the week, and then we used to meet on Skype, and I would read what I wrote throughout this week. And Patrick would just stop me every once in a while and say, I want to change this particular issue. And change a word here, put a punctuation there. Many times it was clear grammatical violations that I made. Sometimes it was because the sentence would be better if I changed that. It would have better cadence, it would flow better, it would be more concise. And if I asked Patrick, he would be able to explain a lot of reasons why he chose one sentence over the other. And sometimes he would just say, this sounds better. So there is some kind of something that I cannot really explain that makes one sentence superior to another. And that's a great way to learn. You learn as kind of an internship. You work, you get constant feedback on what you're doing, and slowly you acquire the taste of a master. I compared it in my book on writing to the practice of sexing chickens. So if you have a situation where you need to decide to determine if a chicken is a boy or a girl, because all the boys have to be basically killed as soon as possible, they're not useful for anything because they can't lay eggs. So you try to kill all the boys, but it's very difficult to tell if a chick is a boy or a girl. They look very similar. So there is no protocol that determines what is a boy and what is a girl. But what you have is experts that almost never make a mistake. The problem is that eventually this expert is going to retire and he needs to give his wisdom to somebody else. And the way they do that is usually that the new intern would just show a chick and say, I think this is a boy. And the master would say, yes, you're right, or no, you're wrong. And after you do that for a while, the person gets this intuition of what is a boy or a girl, and without being able to articulate exactly why, they're just able to notice that, because there are tiny differences that are feeding into this intuition. Now with language, that's very, very similar. So certain sentences just sound better than others, and it's very difficult to take it apart and say why exactly the one sentence is superior to another. So the way we usually worked as writers was we tried to develop our style. We had a lot of mentors, and slowly we developed our own style. And I could really see, how great authors would have something unique about them. They use a certain word more frequently than others. They use a certain sentence form more frequently than others. It was a very, very common, like a fingerprint, as one of my students said in one of the classes, that showed what is exactly the style that is adopted by this scholar. So now, today, we have an AI tool called Grammarly that is constantly able to fix your style. It's also very easy to use ChatGPT to fix your style. You just cut and paste the text and ask for a quick edit. So what we're going to do is that at the beginning, when these tools were quite primitive, they gave a lot of comments that were clearly right, because I made a mistake. I wrote too quickly and I forgot to put the comma in the right place, and that's fine. And they made also comments that were probably wrong, and I ignored them. But as these tools are becoming more and more and more sophisticated, I realized that they have a stronger, harder and harder time rejecting the authors, even if the authors are not something I could easily explain. So I cannot say, okay, I made a grammatical error, I misspelled the word, I wrote a sentence that is very inefficient because it's too long. I can't really pinpoint that to any of these reasons. And yes, I would say, maybe a year ago I would not, or half a year ago, I would not surrender to you. But I think that I have to trust your judgment. I think that overall, you make the text become better. And I cannot even put exactly a word on what makes the text better. So it's not like I can say the text becomes shorter or more concise, or becomes, the language is more sonorous in a way, or more larger vocabulary, smaller vocabulary. I can't really say that. I just say, fine. I mean, the sentences become better. I lost my own style because I'm not anymore writing in a way that has my own individual fingerprint of my style, and I'm basically giving up to the machine this ability to decide what is better, and it's getting better and better at doing that, to a point where it gets to a style that I cannot even understand why it's better. I just have to accept that. Now, once we reach this point, and I think that we are very, very close to that, then humans are really left out of a conversation in many ways, because a machine is not only able to write much faster than us, it is able to write much better than us, and it's able to write much better than us in ways that it cannot articulate to us, because we are not intelligent enough to get the full explanation of why this one-page text produced by a machine is better than this one-page text produced by Malcolm Gladwell or any other great author that knows how to write very beautifully. That's the point that we are heading to. I think I see it already happening, and the island metaphor shows that it's not going to happen in a day. So it's not like I could say, okay, so from this point on, the text of a machine is better than anything human can produce. It happens in islands. So maybe already now, the way the machines put commas is better than any human can do. And the way it spells probably is already better than any human can do. And then soon it will be more efficient sentences, and then deeper arguments, and so on and so on and so on. And we are very, very close to this phenomena happening. So we will reach a point in which we are not only competing against something that is much faster than us, but it is better than us, and it's better than us in ways that we cannot articulate. I don't know what this means for the future, and I don't want to say anything more about that. I already have a video here on this channel about AI in academia and how academia will shape. I suggested that academics can become athletes. Now, when I think about that and I see that the machines would just do things that are better and better in ways that you can't understand, then we cannot even compete at athletes so much anymore. It's just like, competing against other athletes that fly or something like that. It's not even the same sport anymore. So things can develop in many, many different ways. And I think it's something we should all think about, how to organize our lives in a way that is productive and makes us happy and fulfills our goals, given that this is really happening in front of our eyes in a very fast pace. That is all for today. From me, Shai Dotan. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, share it, and write me comments, because as you can see, these are not things that are very, very clearly developed in my mind. I'm starting with them every day. I think about them every day, and any comment can help me. In the meantime, keep learning.